I have to start off just by saying thank you to Nancy and Darcy and the entire Granger Cobb Institute for Senior Living. You guys are in the midst of a world-changing force in the world of aging services, and I always have to point that out. And Nancy's absolutely right. Before I knew anything, before I knew how to run a senior living community, before I knew all the ins and outs of creating community and how to create communities where people want to live, want to work, want to participate, I didn't know anything, but all I did was, what I learned was you got to show up. And it's just so true everywhere. Even when you don't have the answer, like 99% of the battle in any situation, even if it's challenging and people are pissed off, is just showing up and being there and sitting through it. So don't worry if you don't have all the answers, because there was a point in my career when I definitely did not. So senior living, hospitality, home, and community. Yeah, my name is Murray Mercier. I have an undergrad degree from University of North Carolina at Wilmington in information services, and then I've got a master's degree in business administration. Currently, I serve as the director of the senior living solution architecture team at Point Click Care. Point Click Care is an electronic health record. We were born in the electronic health record space in 1997, mostly serving what was the traditional nursing home. And we'll kind of get into the definition of aging services here in a minute. But in 2014, they recruited me to come out of senior living community operations and to Point Click Care because they were interested in creating technology that really was focused on servicing the senior living communities, because it is very different than nursing homes, and I'll get into that in a second. I've been at Point Click Care for just over 11 years, which is wild. I've really worked for two companies in my career. Erickson Senior Living, which is a large CCRC organization out of the East Coast, builds these wildly large retirement communities. I'm talking 2,500 residents, just all the activity you could see in the world happening at these communities. I spent 12 years there. I deployed their first electronic health record back in 2000. And then I said, I really want to get into community operations, because I felt like the options for seniors when they did need physical or cognitive support weren't that great. I don't know has anybody ever been to a traditional nursing home? Yeah. It's not like you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, I want to live there, right? So I set off to design an assisted living program that not only did everything that those nursing homes did, but also met the needs of what you would expect or want to see in a home, from the decor, the pictures on the walls, no nurses stations, no scrubs, et cetera. But I'll get a little bit deeper into that in a second. Since being at Point Click Care, I've done everything from being a customer success manager to an enterprise consultant to a product marketing manager to a general manager. And now my team they bookend our company. So they help our product and engineering team get on the right path for product development. And then on the other side of things, we help our customers, mostly our biggest, most important customers, adopt the solution sets that are really meaningful to the things that they want to accomplish with their buildings and communities and for their residents and staff. I love being in Pullman. I love what Granger Cobb is doing. I love Nancy, I love Darcy. I love working with the students at Washington State University. I've been a mentor now for the last 2 years and been participating in these guest lectures. And it really is something that I truly enjoy. And it got me thinking last night, what are the things that I've really loved in my life? I've been really lucky that I grew up in a family where elders were just present. I had all my grandparents. I had a great-grandmother until I was 38 years old, and I was really lucky for that. So I got to spend time with people who were going through this aging process. I'm curious, how many of you have a close relationship with somebody that's over the age of 65? Very cool. And do any of you have a relationship with anybody that is either in a nursing home or in an assisted living or a memory care community? Yeah? Very cool. I'm going to be calling on you as we go through our conversation today to get your perspectives. So truly, I love old people. I'll tell you a funny story about that in a minute. Second thing that I've always loved is water. Anything to do with water, surfing, swimming, water polo, scuba diving. It's something that I really need in my life to remain centered. And then the third thing, and I'm surprised, Nancy, you didn't mention this, but I love playing music. So I play in a band in Strange Americans, and it's given me the opportunity to play some really cool venues, including Red Rocks one time. So, the things that we love really make us who we are, and it's important that we be bold enough to share those things that we love with other people. Because at the end of the day, whether you're talking about senior living or just general hospitality, people connect with people who are willing to share themselves. And when it comes down to it, where are we most deeply known? What physical place in this world are we most deeply known? It's anybody? Where do we live? We live in our home, right? Would you say that the people that most deeply know you are the people that share your home? Yeah, very cool. So home is not one specific place though, and we can make home multiple locations. When I was 33, I saw this beautiful woman standing in the bar, dive bar in Denver. We were seeing a local band, and I was a couple drinks deep. And the great idea I had to go and introduce myself to her was to share one of those things that I loved with her. And so I walked up to her and I said, "Hi, I'm Murray, and I love old people." And not the greatest pickup line in the world, I know. But she went home and she called her friend and she said, "I met this guy tonight and he loves old people and I'm so excited." And we got married 3 years ago and we've been together for 12 years. But that never would have started if I hadn't shared who I was with her and something that I loved. So it allowed me to make a deep connection with her in no less than 2 minutes in a dingy bar with 2 PBRs in my hand, listening to a loud rock band. So it doesn't take more than a moment to start to build a relationship with anybody in any environment, but you do have to kind of let down that guard. So where did I come from? How did I get here? How did I get to the point where I love old people? This is my grandpa Mulvaney back in 82, 83. And my grandmother was a nursing home administrator and my grandpa Mulvaney lived there. And this is really old school nursing home, right? This is white walls, smells like bleach. I'm not sure, you probably don't know this, but they used to use things like wheelchair ties, where if you were a little too rambunctious in the nursing home, they used to literally tie your wheelchair to the railing on the wall. They had awesome things called shower rooms. You didn't even get your own shower, where they would wheel you in one at a time in the shower room, undo your robe, give you a shower, dry you off, and then wheel you out the other side, maybe tie you back up to those railings if you're a little rambunctious. Honestly, I didn't know any better because I was simply a toddler at this point, but I thought this was the coolest place in the world. It was like 60 of my own grandparents feeding me candy, and we were watching TV, and it was fantastic. I don't know if you get into those old 80s shows, but Chips and Quantum Leap were up there on the preferred television shows. And this is really kind of what molded my understanding that regardless of the environment you put a group of people in, if they're motivated to live well and live with meaning, they're going to find a way to do it no matter what. So it isn't always about the environment. I'll be honest with you, I've done a lot of acquisition work in the senior living world, which is where companies buy and trade senior living communities, essentially. So I would go in, and I have seen the most beautiful buildings totally void of human connection. Like, I'm talking sconces and ivory towers, like really, really nice communities, just empty. Then I've walked into communities that are dilapidated, old school buildings or old shopping malls turned into senior living communities, and they're just so vibrant because it truly did just come down to the people. Senior living communities today, just to give a quick definition. So senior living is an industry created specifically to provide services and align services designed to support the aging process. My wife and I love to go on trips to Mexico. We love that all-inclusive experience, right? Go for a week. You get to meet the staff. You get to know them at a week at a time, right? You build a little bit of a relationship. And I always thought that was really cool, like compared to you go to stay at a hotel, you might have 1 or 2 interactions with the front desk people. You know, all of this is hospitality. It's just how long is the hospitality engagement really happening with the people that you're serving? Hotel last night, front desk woman was nice. She gave me my water, my cookie. I was really happy. That was great. You know, go to Mexico, spend the week with those staff, have a great experience, get to know them a little bit more deeply. Also equally as wonderful, also hospitality. Senior living is also hospitality. It just so happens that people end up living there for about 18 months, at least on average. We want to grow senior living's attraction so that people choose their home in these communities where they can get their services delivered to them over time without having to move. In the old world of aging services, you had to physically move yourself down the continuum. You went from your single family home, maybe something happened and you had a fall, and then you would move into what's called a post-acute skilled nursing environment for 21 to 90 days, and then maybe they moved you into a nursing home. So in order to get the services that you needed, you had to physically move yourself down the continuum. That is rapidly changing. So much so that I had to change these slides from the last time I talked to Washington State, because aging services don't want to be delivered in a physical plant. They want to be delivered where you want to be. And that's actually true of all institutional healthcare. But the cool thing about that is we're going to stop over time forcing people to move in order to get the services they need and bring those services to them, which ironically enough is essentially what we did pre-industrial revolution, where the community, the local community, would circle themselves around their elders and lift their elders up and ensure that they had all that they needed. And I really appreciate that we're getting back to that. This was my favorite mission statement because it really kind of opened my eyes to what senior living was when I first started in the industry. I was like, oh, I gotta go to work every day. What I slowly realized, or rapidly realized, was actually all we're trying to do is come together as a community and live the best life we can day in and day out. And yes, sometimes that means dealing with some crappy food services processes, or we shrunk their laundry, or we didn't do the thing we said we were going to do. We didn't follow through on the promise that we made when we entered into this hospitality engagement with these individuals. But at the end of the day, because it's such a long-term engagement, it ended up feeling like home and community, and really I was leaving one home in the morning and going to my next home. So I always felt like I was at home, enshrined, encircled by the people that really cared about me. Now I have a question for you. Is anybody here excited about aging? Anybody? So I was the only one. I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to get old. Nancy's excited about aging. Do I have a marker? Way better than the alternative. I don't have a marker, so let's just call it out. What are the negative things you think of when you think about aging? What happens when you get old? You die. That's awful. Yeah.
Your body starts to hurt.
Your body starts to hurt. Yep.
Cognitive decline.
Cognitive decline. You start forgetting stuff. What else? Go for it. Sickness. You get sick. You guys are really nice. You smell weird. Can't drive. Yeah? Muscle degradation. Yep. Can't move as much. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I can't remember a single time. Now, it's been a minute since I've been to the gym, but I can't remember a single time in my life where working out didn't hurt. Right? That never stops, right? So, funny enough, we had a resident in our community who was 94 years old, and he could kick the crap out of me. He was a Taekwondo expert. Man, that guy in the gym every day, lifting hard. So we put these expectations on aging that aren't really realistic. What are some of the positive things that happen as you age? Experiences. What do those experiences give you?
Sense of living.
Yeah, it gives you a sense of life, a sense of purpose. What else?
You get to create more joyful memories.
More joyful memories, yep, to think back on, absolutely. Yeah?
I'd say wisdom.
Wisdom, for sure. There was a time when society used to put their elders not in the senior living community or worse, nursing home, or even worse, the psych ward. They used to go to them and ask them. I'll tell you, one of the cool realizations I had when I first opened my first community, and I only had 15 residents, was I was sitting at the table, 24 years old, no business, going through profit and loss and staffing reporting and revenue reports, and I was just so frustrated. And the guy next to me, Warren, congestive heart failure, 94, on oxygen. The rest of the world would have looked at him and said, he serves no more purpose here. He's like, need help with that? I was a CEO for 40 years, right? So the second thing I said to my wife after I told her I loved old people is that older people are the nation's largest untapped resource, and we often overlook them. But once I realized that they had all this wisdom and knowledge, it was really to my advantage in the community. That was the moment that I realized the wall between the customer and the worker, and especially a long-term hospitality engagement, didn't need to be there. It wasn't my problem or their problem. It was our problem as the community. And you can really apply that logic to any setting that you want. Even if you're standing in front of a customer at a restaurant who booked the wrong reservation. This isn't your problem or their problem. It's currently our problem. And we talk about showing up, show up and engage with it. There's many solutions to many problems. So who's excited to age now? Anybody? There you go. I love it. I love it. And there's so much to learn from them. The other thing I just want to point out is that everybody has needs, and none of these needs go away no matter how old you get. Yes, even old people like to have sex. Got to see a lot of that in the community. I like to break this down, and you'll hear me talk about this a few times, that in any interaction, there are environmental inputs, there are emotional inputs, and there are physical inputs to the challenge or the success of the situation. You could also add in social inputs. So at any time when I'm looking or was dealing with an issue, and I've learned to apply this even in business, even at the corporate level, is whenever I'm dealing with a challenge, okay, is this challenge environmental? Is it emotional? Is it physical? Is it social? And that just really has helped me to open my eyes as far as what the options were to move forward in it. But these needs for a human being never go away, no matter how old or physically or cognitively declined you become. Okay, so senior housing really started during the Industrial Revolution. Because kids moved away from their families, they went to the cities to get work, they went to work in automotive, they went off to war, all of these things, and suddenly there was no communal support system for people to age successfully within. So they didn't know what to do with these people. They put them in psych wards. And psych wards weren't really designed to meet the needs of just general aging services. Like you can't remember where you put your keys or whatever, right? Psych wards are like, what? No, we like to use electric shock therapy and give you a lot of pills. And this debate has gone on since that time pretty much, and is actually why Social Security was designed, was we have this attachment to physical things, right? And a lot of that was driven off of the Great Depression, and we had to work really hard for the things that we get. So we have this dependency, and we align our internal well-being to the control of those physical things. And the biggest thing that you'll buy in your lifetime generally is going to be your home, right? And so you buy that thing, you pay for that thing, you live in that thing for 30 years, and you start to think, oh, that home is me. So if I'm not in that home, I'm not successful. And that's created this really interesting kind of social expectation that all people want to get old and die in the single family home they bought 35 years ago. Well, that's ridiculous. If you're 85 years old and you have cognitive and physical decline and you can't even leave that single family home, how in the world are you going to get all those needs met? Right? So in the Social Security came along, and I think it was Roosevelt was like, oh, hey, if we just give people a monthly stipend based on the work that how much they contributed to society, they can just hire home health aides, and those home health aides will keep them in their single family home, and they'll be happy. I'll tell you, this cycle has happened. I mean, even most recently with Biden, it's happened 10 times over again, and it's always been wrong. People thrive when they're in community settings that actually meet the needs that they have. So just a little bit of plug. So senior living actually came along in the 80s. John Erickson, he created the first kind of large CCRC, continuing care retirement community, where you still had to move to get the care you wanted, but you had to move down the hall or just barely down the street so you could remain engaged in the activities around you and the hospitality going on around you. And then Paul Clausen created Sunrise Senior Living in the late 80s, designed under the same logic that, hey, if we put more of these home-like assisted living communities around urban and suburban developments, then people won't have to leave their greater community, but they can still get the care that they need. Well, even that was, people still don't want to go in, right? It's the building up on the hill. It's the thing that you drive by and you think about all the people in there, but you're not really going in to engage. So that's what set me off to create Aspen House, which was a new model of assisted living. Number one, to my previous point, no blue scrubs, no med carts, no nurses stations, no institutional trappings is what I would call it. The government actually had made a decision to fund nursing homes back in the 70s, and they had a decision to make. They're like, either we're going to give this to hospitals to fund, or we're going to give this to churches to build out these assisted living and nursing home type environments. And of course, surplus safety wins, and they said, let's give it to the hospitals because those are the people that know how to keep somebody physically safe. And there is this thing as surplus safety where it's like, my desire for your safety probably exceeds your desire for your safety, or it at least impedes on your right for self-determination and self-agency in your own life. That leads to a whole lot of downfalls, especially when it comes to that Maslow's hierarchy of care needs. If you don't have self-determination, you cannot self-actualize. You cannot do for yourself. And if you cannot do for yourself, you cannot transcend, which means to help another person self-actualize. And that's where this idea of caregiving was born from. So in 2008, I set off to create a senior living, assisted living environment that totally flipped the script and totally focused on the needs of the individuals living and working in Aspen House. It didn't have any regard to the systemic approach to healthcare that hospitals put out there, right? That surplus safety approach. And it was absolutely amazing. I had a couple of my first residents. I had Renee Champion. Renee Champion, during World War II, was unable to join the US military to go fight Hitler because he was from France. So he hopped a steamliner and went over to Europe and joined the Free French forces. And still to this day, there is a tank abandoned driving up to Hitler's home, not his summer home where they found him, but there's a tank abandoned, and you'll see RC engraved into the side of this tank. And he was a part of the Free French force who actually stormed Hitler's house, not knowing if he was there or not, but at the end of World War II. And here Renee was, no long-term memory. Guy couldn't remember something past 3 minutes. He didn't really like me very much. But by giving him the opportunity to be deeply known, by deploying a hospitality-geared approach to community management, Renee was able to live successfully and comfortably and have as much self-determination as he possibly could. Hazel, top left, Hazel came to me. She was my third resident. Doctor called me, said, hey, I need you to take this resident. I think she's only going to live for 30 days. Well, why do you think that? Well, she's been on hospice for 16 months. She's got congestive health failure. All medical diagnoses and protocol point to her dying in the next 30, 60 days. I said, okay. Me and my staff, we got to know Hazel. We found out that she had a wild curiosity about technology. So I ended up seeking out a technology platform. It was called It's Never Too Late, now called LifeLoop. And Hazel owned that technology setup. It was a big computer screen back then, which had all this like touchscreen capability. And she made it her job to teach everybody who even came near our community how to use It's Never Too Late. She lived for 3.5 years after moving into our community with us. She found purpose. And I really this is the hospitality that attracted me. The hospitality that allowed me to help somebody find purpose over a period of time. And that is true. I could tell you 100 more stories across all of these residents that you see in these pictures. Most common question I get usually after giving these talks is, how do you deal with death of these people that you're building relationships with? And honestly, everybody deals with death in their own way, but we most certainly can't ignore it. And it's certainly, I'm more prepared for death than anybody because I've learned about aging services and I've connected with these people. But I'll tell you that the upside of having experiences like I had with Hazel or Reggie or Clive or anybody that you see in these pictures is that I know that the benefits that I gave them in the community and creating a community for them to become self-determinant in their life and have say in their life and have agency far outweighed any of the emotions that came up when they passed away. In fact, when they did pass away, I was more likely to think about all the good times we had had. So old people are not dead. And I had a great experience with some, does anybody know what Meow Wolf is? No? Okay, so Meow Wolf, you do know what Meow Wolf is back there, nice. So Meow Wolf is a art installation experience that was seeking to completely break the mold on your traditional museum. It was created by a group of guys down in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They have them in New Mexico, Las Vegas, Denver, and I think they just opened one more. If you do get the chance or you're in any of those locations, I highly suggest that you check this out. Check it out.
Whoever created it, I mean, were they on drugs? I thought Meow Wolf was the most unusual place I have ever been to.
An incredible team effort between the architects, the builders, and the creators, the artistic ones.
I had heard from a lot of people that it was a crazy place.
Bringing the residents to Meow Wolf today, I think, has shown that there's still an opportunity to stay engaged with life, to really experience life. And I'm really thankful for that opportunity with our residents. My name is Vern Mercier, and this has been the Not Late Slip Show. One of the cool things about working in senior living as a choice for a hospitality career is that there's just so many jobs under one roof. From a systems side, on average, a senior living organization has 27 back-end systems running their communities because they're not just care and services and delivering medication. They're also fitness and wellness and dietary wellness, and they've got country stores and restaurants and pubs and beauty salons and banks and pharmacies, and it takes, I always say there's like 15 businesses running under one roof. So the cool thing about being in this industry is, number one, people are always going to be aging. So I can tell you that I have 100% certainty that I'm never not going to be employed, which is really helpful. Number two, it's just really cool because, again, at the end of the day, you're just living life as best you can with the people around you. From a focus perspective, I would qualify that senior living really has three things that they're trying to accomplish. Number one is they're trying to enhance the resident lifestyle, and that comes with being deeply known. Senior living is never done. It's not a start and stop business. It isn't ever finished. It is simply how well can we maintain this garden? How well can we maintain the vibrancy and the wellness of this total community? And I will tell you, it ebbs and flows. There are some really, really high points, like taking 4 90-year-olds to an interactive art installation that was created by artists who were basically tripping on mushrooms for 2 decades. That was really cool. There are some low lows. And the rule of threes is really real. Like, I swear, 3 residents passing away in a row is never any fun. But who else is going to show up? Because these people would have been pushed off to the side. And it's not just to the benefit of them. Again, I've had a lot of personal growth and really understanding what's important to in life. And that's given me perspective to, like, who cares what's happening in traffic right now? Who cares if they delivered my food incorrectly? Like, who do I love and who loves me, and where do I want to spend my time? And how do I want to use the time that's left? Just passing my 43rd year on this world, this industry has really helped me realize what's really important with life. Number two, attracting, retaining, engaging, empowering the best talent. Oh, I should say on the resident lifestyle, again, I would just really dig in on being deeply known. Technology wasn't where it was when I started, and even in 2008. I did not have a technical system to keep track of the details around an individual in order to quickly access it. It was all on paper. So I basically had to memorize it, and I had to be there 80 hours a week to really understand what was going on and support the community. It's not how it is today. You don't need to do that. Technology's come a long way in supporting deeply knowing individuals. Attracting, retaining, engaging, empowering the best talent. The key here, the key to hospitality in a senior living environment is, do I have the right piece of information at the right moment in time so that I can help the resident and the staff member make the best decision for them? Not my decision for them, but how can I help them make the best decision for them? Warren, one of my early residents, he was the CEO sitting next to me. He passed away from an accidental double dose of morphine at the tail end of his congestive heart failure. And my staff gave the dose, and technically, and then hospice came in behind them and gave another dose. So I had to follow the whatever business processes for documentation. But at the end of the day, I called the son, Steve, and I said, Steve, I was just letting him know I'm the first person to tell him, hey, your father passed away. This is what happened. This is what I understand happened. And his response to me was, Murray, my dad was 94 years old with congestive heart failure. Like, the reality is that he couldn't have lived a better last phase of his life than he did. As a senior living administrator, one of the big concerns, one of the big risk aversions is getting sued, right? Because we're a pretty sue-happy culture. So a lot of organizations will deal with that by cloaking or putting that wall up again between the community and the staff and the residents themselves and the family members. And by doing the opposite, I actually removed all that risk. So in my 5 years of running senior living communities, I never got sued. I never had to go to court. I never got put on the stand. I never got a state deficiency. So once every year or 2 years, the state comes in and just makes sure we're doing everything that we can. It wasn't because I didn't have the deficiency. It's because I was completely transparent with the deficiency. And I took the opportunity to show up and have the conversation, even though it was a really hard one. That's a lesson that has really helped me in my career. And I think it's true no matter what work you're doing. If there's a tough situation, I recommend you walk right into the fire and you just sit there and you don't talk yourself around in circles. You just listen to the concerns and work through it with the people around you, if I could give a recommendation there. And then finally, a good senior living community is going to take accountability for wellness coordination. That's not just the pills. It is not just getting your shoes on it during the day and making sure you're, telling the person to drink enough water. It's helping them get to their doctor's appointments. It's helping them to educate themselves that yes, it still does hurt to work out even if you're 95, but there is a benefit to this. And the only way that you're going to get people to align behind you is if they trust you and you build trust on transparency. The senior living industry has gone through a lot of changes over the last 30 years and is even more rapidly transforming. So about 12, 14 years ago, Dr. Bill Thomas, who's a really cool kind of leader in the industry, came out with what's called the Eden Alternative. And it was this premise that people, more than illness, more than their diagnosis, more than congestive heart failure or Alzheimer's, when you go through aging, you're actually dealing with helplessness, loneliness, and boredom. I would actually say, and I use a lot of these concepts in my life with my wife, is when we're arguing, when we're not happy with each other, like, is there something that's causing you to feel helpless, lonely, bored? What's the emotional impact? What's the social impact? What's the physical impact? What's the environmental impact? And that's given me things to explore when I do walk into the fire. And I found those things to be helpful, even if I'm just pissed off driving down the road in traffic. Is like, okay, what's really bothering me now if I think across that landscape of emotional concepts? Caregiving has been the premise of senior care and aging services forever. I do for you. You need something, I do all for you. Instead of this idea that actually you should participate as much as you can in the process, even if it takes a little bit longer. And that's where person centricity really came into the conversation. So we went from, I'm going to decide what's right to you, then I went to, okay, I'm going to think about you and think about what you would want and then decide what's right for you. And really where I believe that we're headed next, it's going to rapidly evolve because of AI's ability to create better technology to help this interaction happen, but really get to this point of person-directedness. You should have the ability, our clients should have their ability in the senior living setting to really direct their own livelihood. So I'm excited for it to get there. Instead of me just assuming or thinking about what I think you would want, you actually taking control of that helm. In skilled nursing and institutional healthcare, the hospitals, the practitioners, and the payers decide what you get. And you've experienced this. If you've gone to the hospital and had a procedure, you're not deciding the next thing that happens to you. The doctor and the payer decided the next thing that's going to happen for you. So the goal of the technology and the process in the institutional skilled nursing space, the traditional nursing home space, is to get that decision to the point of care as quickly as possible. In senior living, we want to get all the information to the point of care that's relevant to the decision-making process, but actually let the resident and the person standing in front of them make that decision together, which really gives you, again, that more unique experience from a hospitality perspective is you're really getting involved with your clients' lives in order to help them make a better decision for themselves. Strongly encourage the entire world to adopt the idea that our relationships are always partnerships. They're not one-way streets. I need to receive as much as I give. Otherwise, I'm just not going to be happy. Something that I learned, burnout is caused by give, don't get anything in return, go home, burnout, right? So really taking the opportunity to understand what you need from the engagements, even in a work environment, is super important. Who in your life is a care partner to you? Friends, parents, brothers, sisters, coaches. And how often do we think, especially when we're in a work environment, how often do we think like, oh, the interaction I'm having right now is really a partnership versus putting all the weight on yourself? I'm sure that happens. I know that happens in school, in work groups, et cetera. So taking the time to understand and articulate what you need in return in any given relationship-based interaction is super important. So we moved into the eye care planning years in senior living, and that's where we really tried to move the self-determination into the hands of the residents. When you are in a senior living environment, there are things that you need to do regulatory-wise. You need to do an evaluation on the person to understand what they need from a mobility, hearing, physical, medical perspective, a social, a behavioral, an emotional, a religious perspective. We do that evaluation, then we create a plan of care for that individual. I believe, like even in a hotel setting, they really do have plans for the individuals that are using their services, and the ability to self-determine that plan is, I think, the concept, the novelty that's going to exist as we continue to move forward as a society from a hospitality perspective. Communication is key, no matter where and what environment we're in. So when you think about communication, what is the responsibility we have? Well, we are responsible for developing our own communication skills. The more we work on our own personal communication skills, the more success we will have. And communication is obviously more than verbal. There's a lot of nonverbal components when working in hospitality, your body language, et cetera. I've got a question for you. How long does it take in an interaction with a person to leave them in a better place than you found them? How many minutes do you need, do you think? 2? I like that. 30 seconds, 5 seconds. What does a smile do? When you're walking down the walkway to class and you catch somebody's eye, and what's the difference between smiling and not smiling, and what's the difference in the feeling that you have there? It's rhetorical, right? But you really only need about 15 seconds to leave somebody in a better position than you found them. I'm not always good at remembering that, but I do give myself grace. I remember leaving an Eden Alternative Training in 2007 with Dr. Bill Thomas, and he was teaching that concept that it doesn't take more than 5 seconds to leave somebody in a better position. I remember going through the McDonald's and getting the order wrong and just being so irritated and grabbing my meal and driving away, and I was like, ah, crap. That's exactly what Bill was talking about, right? But on the flip side of that, we also have to give ourselves grace. I will argue that the number one thing that people compliment me on in business and in my personal life sometimes is that as soon as I know I was wrong, I admit it. And not bearing the weight, not carrying the weight of not admitting it has been such a relief across my entire life. It's probably saved me a heart attack or two. So I highly suggest, when you make a mistake, when you figure out you did something wrong, just own it. Hey, I was wrong. I'm telling you, it'll relieve the stress there. Communicate the way you would like the world to communicate with you. Obviously, remember you have to do most of the work. If you take that attitude into the engagement and you lean in and you act like you want to do most of the work in the situation, that's going to be received well. I don't care if you're running a hotel or a restaurant or dealing with a senior living long-term interaction. If you act like you need to do most of the work, you'll find that you actually have to do less. Tips for successful communication. Again, this doesn't matter what environment you are in, but I will tell you that this is extremely helpful if you're dealing with somebody who might have some cognitive decline. Making somebody feel good, meeting those Maslow's hierarchy of care needs is always helpful, bolstering self-worth. Validating feelings is huge. I have ADHD to the max. Whenever somebody presents a problem to me, I've worked out probably 400 different solutions before they finish their sentence. I don't know how many of you are like that, but that can get away from me. And so what I do to stop that is I validate the feelings and I restate what they said to me. That helps me slow down in any circumstance, especially when somebody's pissed off at me in a business situation. They come at me, they say something a million miles per hour. I, at that point, am focused on rephrasing what they've said to me so that I can clearly kind of digest what they're saying to me, but also to validate their feelings and to give them a feeling of power in the situation. Because most likely, if somebody's upset, they feel like they've lost power. Join them on their journey. Really cool situation. What I came to understand was my favorite part of working in the senior living community was working with my residents who had cognitive impairment. Mary Lou, she had Parkinson's disease and Lewy body dementia, which is probably one of the most challenging things to age with. The Lewy body dementia, it's not like Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is more progressive. Normal dementia progresses. It starts in the front of your brain. You start forgetting where you left your keys. Where did I put my soup? Where's this? Where's that? What's your birthday? And it slowly moves back, and the last thing that happens is the bodily functions, the area of your brain that controls your bodily functions shut down, and that's generally how people with traditional Alzheimer's or dementia pass away. Lewy body dementia is like an attack zone. So it's like 1 minute you could be totally there and remember everything in your life, and the next minute you think you're seeing a spaceship outside your window, or you think that there's bugs crawling down your walls, or you think that you need to go pick up your daughters from 4th grade at the bus stop. Don't take anything on face value. Instead of calling the doctor and getting the pill prescribed and putting the person in a psychotropic haze to control their behavior, I actually immersed myself in the situation. I said, okay, the true story. There's aliens taking off in their spaceship outside my window every week. Okay, cool. What night? Oh, it always happens on Thursday nights. Okay, cool. Let's have a sleepover party. And so we did. Me and my staff, we got popcorn, we all put on pajamas, we watched movies. And then she's like, okay, it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. So we all crowded around her window, And sure enough, this big blast of light, purples and reds and yellows and oranges lit up. The guy that lived across the street had a semi-trailer. And he had one of those big, huge, cool ones that like lit up with all these designs and crazy lights on them. If we hadn't immersed ourselves in that resident's reality, we never would have figured that out. I probably would have sent her to the doctor. The doctor would have prescribed some sort of antipsychotic. She would have been, not herself. But instead, we engaged in the situation. We figured out what was happening. There's bugs crawling down my walls. Sure enough, we went in there while they were doing construction in the place next door. So every time they were banging on the walls, spiders were crawling down the walls. You never would have thought that, right? Oh my gosh, I've got more stories like that. Irwin, this was not a good situation. So I had a staff member, he got frustrated, he was upset, something was going wrong. The staff member did not immerse themselves in the situation with the resident, ended up having to call 911. The general healthcare ecosystem does not know how to deal with people that are, aging to that point in the last phase of their life. So they came in, injected them with Haldol, which is it sedates you, ended up putting him in a psych ward in a week. Thank God he didn't pass away. We ended up getting him back, but that was a situation where she did not immerse herself in the frustration with the resident. She tried to, argue with him and tell him everything was fine, and she ended up escalating the situation. So honestly, joining them on their journey can do a whole lot in not only controlling the situation and making the person feel validated, but also avoiding an adverse event. I don't care if that's calling 911 and having somebody sedated, or it's somebody who gets so pissed off and frustrated that they go give you a 0 review on Yelp or whatever. It really does help the situation when you do that. Common slips when you're in a situation where something is escalating. People will tend to talk louder. They will tend to give commands. In the situation where a resident is having cognitive decline, they'll ask memory questions like, don't you remember? Obviously they don't remember, or they wouldn't have been escalated to this point. This is a big one, and I use this in my entire life. Don't ask questions if you won't accept the answer. There's this cool idea that I learned in dealing with memory care residents called therapeutic fibbing. Yes, it's lying, but it's really joining them where they are again. So it's like, instead of saying, no, it's not 1984, and no, you don't have to pick your daughters up from the bus stop, it's like, oh, tell me what they wore to school today. What grade are they in? Who's their teacher? And when you join people in your journey to that degree, they can tend to work themselves to their own degree of solution. And then also, whenever you're in a stressful situation, definitely avoid long explanations. These can be really helpful in hospitality-related situations. Validation of feelings, that must be very frustrating. Nodding your head in encouragement, soft eyes, what is it like, smile with your eyes, drop your mouth, like that kind of thing. The way we show up physically is very, is something that the other party is definitely going to take in when they're having their interaction with me. And then again, based on rephrasing. Just a couple points here on behaviors. When you're going through cognitive loss, or you're working with somebody that's going through cognitive loss, people are going to experience irritability, anxiety, depression, anger, agitation, aggression. These are all normal responses to the aging process. And it can be a normal response to any kind of hospitality interaction that you're having. That's where, again, I just lean into joining where they are, validating their feelings, working with them on solutions as opposed to just forcing solutions down their throat. Leading with empathy, accepting the person in front of you, answering repeated questions calmly, don't scold, respond with emotion, try to touch or gesture. If it's appropriate, try redirecting. These are things that you can use for people that are frustrated in all moments of your life. But at the end of the day, creating moments of joy is definitely where it's at. Meet people where they are, be curious. It only takes 5 seconds or less than 2 minutes to leave somebody in a better place than you found them. And the last thing I'll just say to y'all today is that working in senior living is really cool, and it's a lot of fun. And And the reality is that everybody ages. So beyond having, a lot of confidence that I'm never going to end up in a situation that's unemployed, working in senior living has really taken me to a lot of really cool places and given me an opportunity to interact with a lot of cool people. So if you're looking for that long-term hospitality opportunity or looking to engage with people on a real level that goes beyond what can sometimes feel a little bit of fakeness in the traditional corporate world, I highly suggest senior living is a place for you. So what happens when we actually take the time to engage with somebody on a truly hospitality-driven level, like we've talked about today? Look at our friend Henry here.
Hi, Papa. Hi, Papa.
Huh?
How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm fine. Wait.
Who am I?
I don't know. Wait a minute. I don't know.
Okay, it's Jerry.
How long has he been in the nursing home? Approximately 10 years. He was having seizures, and my mother couldn't handle him at home. Of course, it affected me greatly because he was always, fun-loving, singing, every occasion he would come out with a song, no matter where he was. I remember as a child, he used to walk us down the street, me and my brother, and he would stop and do Singing in the Rain. He would have us jumping and swinging around poles. He was, he was good. He was always into music, always loved singing, dancing.
His name is Henry Dreyer.
Uh-huh.
And I'm looking more or less for religious music for him.
Okay.
Because he enjoys music and he always quoting the Bible. So I'd rather have that for him.
We first see Henry inert, maybe depressed, unresponsive, and almost unalive.
Henry.
Yeah?
Henry.
Yes, sir.
I found your music. You want your music now?
What's up to you?
Okay, let's try your music, okay? And then you tell me if it's too loud or not.
Then he is given an iPod containing, we know, his favorite music. And immediately he lights up. His face assumes expression, his eyes open wide. He starts to sing and to rock and to move his arms, and he's being animated by the music.
And he used to always sit on the unit with his head like this. He didn't really talk to much people. And then when I introduced the music to him, this is his reaction ever since.
The philosopher Kant once called music the quickening art, and Henry is being quickened, he's being brought to life.
Yeah?
I'm going to take the music for 1 second, okay? Just to ask you a few questions. Okay? I'm going to give it back to you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The effect of this doesn't stop, because when the headphones are taken off, Henry, normally mute and virtually unable to answer the simplest yes or no questions, is quite voluble.
Henry,
Yeah?
do you like the iPod? Do you like the music you're hearing?
Yes.
Tell me about your music.
Well, I don't have none, I mean.
Do you like music?
Yeah, I'm crazy about music. You play beautiful music, beautiful sound. Beautiful.
Did you play music when you were, did you like music when you were young?
Yes, I went to big dances and things.
What was your favorite music when you were young?
Well, I guess, Cab Calloway was my #1 band guy I liked.
What's your favorite Cab Calloway song?
Oh, I'll be home there for Christmas. Oh, you can count and plan on me with plenty of snow Mistletoe, present wrapped around your tree. Ow.
So in some sense, Henry is restored to himself. He has remembered who he is, and he's reacquired his identity for a while through the power of music.
What does music do to you?
Give me the feeling of love, romance. Figure right now the world need to come into music, singing. You got beautiful music here. Beautiful, oh, lovely. And I feel the band of love, the dream. The Lord came to me, made me holy. I'm a holy man. So he gave me this sound. I'll just say, I meet you. Let's see, Rosalie, won't you love me? Rosalie, won't you be sweet and kind?
With this beautiful new technology, you can have all the music which is significant for you in something as big as a matchbox or whatever. And I think this may be very, very important in helping to animate, organize, and bring a sense of identity back to people who are out of it. Otherwise, music will bring them back into it, into their own personhood, their own memories, their own autobiographies.
The world would have been just happy to let Henry kind of sit to the side there in his wheelchair with his head down. I'm curious, like, you know, if you were to tell somebody, you know, one thing about you to help them deeply know you, what would it be? What's one thing you would want somebody to know about you if you were in the position of having to call a senior living community home? I'm curious. Go for it.
Probably sports.
Sports? What about sports? Is there a specific one?
Yeah, probably volleyball.
Volleyball. Okay, beach or hard court?
Hard court.
Hard court. And like what grew your attraction to volleyball?
I'm not sure. I just find it really, really fun.
Yeah. I used to play too, and then my knees started swelling up every time I would jump, so I stopped doing that. Very cool. It's very nice to know you. Who else? What's one thing that would help somebody deeply know you? Yes?
Maybe travel and seeing the world and experiencing new things.
Okay, travel. Is there a part of the world that you think about most?
Probably Zambia.
Zambia. Why Zambia?
I've been there twice to volunteer.
No kidding.
Mothers Without Borders, and I just loved it.
What'd you do when you were volunteering out there?
I went once with my mom, and then I went back with my grandma, actually.
Oh, no kidding.
It was amazing. We went into the compounds there and just connected with the people.
Yeah.
And just were there for weeks, 2 summers, and we helped with their children resource center. They have a lot of kids there, and we helped build a school with dirt bricks that we made.
Yeah.
And we just connected with them.
That's so amazing. I have a buddy from back in Denver, and he designs water purification for African tribes, where they use like mud and stuff, and they make the whole water purification storage out of just all natural resources. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool to deeply know you. Who else? One more. Darcy, how can I more deeply know you?
I love Pullman, and I love living on this loose. Been here 28 years.
28 years, my goodness.
I'm not dying here.
Not dying here. Where are you dying?
I am from the west side, and I miss the water.
Yeah, I'm with you. Denver's beautiful, and I got stuck there 20 years ago, so it's not that bad, but I've been starved for water, so. Like, you get out of your community whatever you put into it, and if you're not curious and if you don't allow others to be curious about you, it won't be as good of an experience. Another side of senior living that's really cool is where AI, and this wouldn't be a conversation, it wouldn't be a presentation, it wouldn't be a talk without talking about AI. I'm sure you guys are all using it, yeah? Yeah, very much so. The cool thing about applying AI in the senior living space is that we have tons and tons of data because we have been documenting every evaluation, every service plan intervention and goal, every task that we've been doing for them for the better part of 20 years now, which means our algorithms have a ton of data to learn off of. And then you add in all of the acute and skilled nursing related documentation that we've done. So one thing that we're doing right now, Point Click Care specifically, is we're working on an AI initiative that helps an individual understand their wellness score. You know, forever we've had Fitbits and Whoops and what's the Oura Ring, and we've got all this data that help athletes be athletes, and you and I kind of get through our day or get our steps in and stuff like that. But there's been no design around collecting that passive data and to understand our aging process. And it's been a huge, huge miss. So if you're a tech person and you're looking for a business idea, I think a Whoop for seniors is something that would be hugely successful. What we're doing with it is we're coming to understand the wellness score of an individual. When you look at healthcare, we usually go by an acuity score. So it's like, how frail is a person? And I really want to flip that script to look at how well is a person, and not just based on their doctor's progress notes, but based on their own input and the activities of daily living and their normal routines and how they're changing over time, to allow an individual to understand how well they're aging. I know they've got all those applications out there. I think Oura tells you like how old you are based on like your sleep and stuff like that. I just think there's a huge opportunity here, and it's an area that I'm really excited, and we need more minds kind of focused in this arena. I do want to caution you on AI though. I had the opportunity, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I had the opportunity to, first off, I get to do this really cool thing. I got to kind of make a parody of the Late Show. It's called the Not Late Sliff Show, because we usually do it in the middle of the afternoon. We did one in Miami last year. We did one in Albuquerque. This is Vince Kadlebeck. He is the founder and creator of Meow Wolf, that museum that you watched me walk, not museum, that interactive art installation that you watched me walk those residents through, or them engage with rather. But I thought he had a really cool perspective on AI and the future of it. And this really, to me, ties into hospitality and how important human interaction will continue to be. And it's not going to go away just because AI is here.
What can AI not do? Because what AI cannot do is actually the thing that is now going to have a ton of value, because that's where novelty is going to exist in the world of content. And luckily, like, experiences are really going to be physical, IRL experiences are going to be really tough for AI to ever grab a hold of. Sure. You know, and so that's where I'm grateful that Meow Wolf is in that space, you know, and I think everybody in this room, being in senior living spaces, is in that space as well, of creating experiences that, you know, something like an algorithm can't do.
So I think food for thought. In that context, he was just talking about content production and how we're going to get sick and tired of seeing AI-driven images, and we're going to slowly be able to understand the difference between a real interaction, be it digitally or human, and an AI-driven interaction. The old man sitting at the end of the couch at the end of that was actually John Erickson, the founder of Erickson Senior Living. So had some really cool opportunities to interact with some great people. This is Clive.
What can AI not
Oops.
do? Because what AI cannot do.
We already watched that. All right, so Clive moved in with me. Clive came in, he had Lewy body dementia, Parkinson's. He is the only, like, he's a doctor, but he worked on the space programs. And he ended up developing this microchip in space that they used in children who have uncontrollable seizures back in the 70s. So they installed a microchip on the kids' brains that stopped them from having the seizures. Wild dude, he did some incredibly inappropriate things in the community, but a woman walked into the community one day because she was visiting her uncle who was also living there, and she's like, "Are you Clive?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah. And her son or daughter ended up having one of those microchips installed in their brain. But we never really would have understood that if we hadn't taken the time to engage with Clive and deeply know him and learn his story. So I thought that was pretty incredible. I had the opportunity to go out and go back into the community after, 8 years of not being there during COVID, because everybody was getting sick and the executive director at this community ended up in the hospital. But I was really encouraged that at the end of the day, people were still just coming together to live life as best they could day in and day out. And I don't think that'll ever change. So from a consistency perspective, senior living is pretty awesome in that way. I'm curious, what questions do you have? Yes?
You said you had a business background. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel like you bridged the gap from like having a business background to like working with patients that like have a lot of health care needs every day, like interacting with people with dementia?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to kind of how I kicked off my story, is that like when I look at everything that I loved, it had a community base to it. Like none of it I did by myself. Even when I was swimming, like endless laps looking down at the pool, there were 40 other kids in the pool with me. And I realized it wasn't what I was doing that was making me happy, it was who I was doing it with. My dad got scapegoated off of he also was in the industry. He was the CIO for the largest nursing home chain in the country, and then ended up being the CIO for one of the really large hospital chains in the company. And he got forced into retirement, and I was like, what are you most proud of in your career? And he said to me, of all the systems I deployed nationwide, of the amount of users I deployed, he's like, none of that matters. All of that's going to be gone really rapidly if you're looking at technology. But the one thing that stays is how well did I enable, encourage, and empower the people around me to want to go out there and do a better thing, to do better. And I think that at the end of the day is what I've really held on to. Is like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what. The reason my beard's so big, I should have addressed this, is I'm not shaving it until Point Click Care launches their new senior living platform in November. So I expect it to get even longer here. But in 2 years, probably even faster because of AI dev, that's going to be gone. At the end of the day, it's did I encourage somebody else to go out there and do a great thing? And that's what matters to me at the end of the day. What else? Yeah.
First off, thank you for coming to speak to us.
For sure.
What I wanted to ask you about is, what are some steps being taken to promote modern care and to kind of differentiate it to older stereotypes of care?
Yeah, so if you might have heard of value-based care. Has anybody heard of value-based care? It's the premise that we as a care system need to provide a better patient experience, which is ironic. The definition of patient is the willingness to accept delays. How ironic is that, right? So value-based care is better patient experience, better patient outcomes, better individual outcomes, and more accountability on the money that we're spending in which to get there. In the traditional healthcare world, it was fee for service, which was, if I do this service, I get paid for this service. It doesn't matter what the patient outcome. It doesn't matter if I made you better or I put you in a better position based on your expectations. It was simply, did I do this service, then I get paid for it. Or was I allowed to do the service, did I do it, did I get paid for it? The reality is that institutional healthcare really does want to be in the home. And we've really seen that rapid evolution from the start of Fitbit through virtual health, being able to see your practitioner from your computer in your dorm room, being able to talk to a therapist. Institutional healthcare wants to be in the home. The reality is that the best proving ground to transition institutional healthcare from a hospital gurney to the comfort of your couch is senior living. So in senior living specifically, we're spending a lot of time of figuring out how can we streamline healthcare in an experience that isn't disruptive to your daily life. The goal, healthcare isn't healthcare. Healthcare is sick care. Healthcare is wellness, but how can we get the sick care out of the way as quickly as possible and get you back to the things that are meaningful in your life? That is the objective that we're going through right now. Now it's going to be push and pull all the way through, but it takes a lot of effort to figure out how do we actually kind of streamline that healthcare service and alongside your daily life, but it's giving you more option. It's allowing you to direct your care. Instead of the doctor owning your health record, you should own your health record. And that's what we're doing at Point Click Care, is we're trying to figure out how do we move the health record from the wellness nurse's hands into the residents' hands and the family members and the smaller community around that individual, and just giving you more control. That's the biggest thing, is giving you more control as the patient. What else?
We are out of time.
Cool.
We are out of time. Murray, thank you.
Yep. Happy to connect with anybody. Feel free to look me up on LinkedIn or shoot me an email if you have any questions or you want help getting an internship or anything like that.